All right, it's just after 9. I know I should be getting out of here, and you may be bored with me, but I'll tell you what, you're not bored with Ruda Landman. Ruda is here to interview me this morning about all kinds of things to do with careers and the different paths that we've walked, and perhaps at the same time, we could shed some light on things that may be interesting to you in your own career, or perhaps if you're deciding on a career, what you might like to do.
There's a new website called Change Exchange.
Okay, what is it?
And it's all about the changes in our lives. You know, when you grow up, you leave whatever education you're going to do, and then you have to find a job. That's a huge thing. Then you might get hitched. Then you might have children. Your life shifts and changes. And finding your feet in a career, in a job, more than one after the other, or at the same time, all of those are huge life changes, and that's what this is all about.
Right.
So what you've just done, what you've created in your life, is
destruction.
Such a moment. Well, I hope it's creative destruction. I'm sure it's creative destruction. Sure. So let's start before it happened.
Okay.
When did you start thinking, and not so much when, but what were the circumstances that made you think the time may be coming? Because you were comfortable in what you were doing.
Well,
you were riding high.
But isn't that part of the problem when you get comfortable? You know all about that. What happens is that you find yourself in a comfort zone where you know exactly what's happening around you. You start cutting back on all the extraneous stuff, and you just know how absolutely little you have to do to achieve the desired result. It's the laziness coefficient, I call it, because at school, I would know if I did 2 hours of studying before an exam, I would get 60 to 70%, and that would be sufficient. I was never one of those people who wanted to work up to the upper 80s and 90s. I thought, well, it's a waste of time. I could rather spend that time laughing, spending time with friends, watching TV, masturbating furiously, whatever it was, but I didn't have to spend the majority of that time outside of what was necessary doing anything extra. It's a bit of a problem if you find that you have the capacity to do something that maybe other people did find a bit difficult, because I know that there were people at school with me who were probably cleverer than I was, but they struggled with exams, and they found it very nervous and tense, and it put them in an anxious mood, and they probably couldn't deliver the results they did. I'd just walk in and do the thing, and if I didn't know anything, I'd write something
vaguely sensible,
some wise crack, or I'd say something about, I'd turn an essay on history, for example, because I remembered the important facts, and I'm a fan of history. It's something I've loved all along. So I would have this backlog of general knowledge, and I'd just spew it out on the pages, and it would look more or less sensible enough, and the lazy marker would go, this guy he's coherent. He seems to know at least a minority of the facts that were applicable. Give him a 60. And
but it's quite difficult to... In the first place, you have to be aware that is happening in your job situation. You have to be, because it's like the frog in the hot water, except that the water is not getting boiling hot. It's getting easier and easier.
It is because you know more about what you're doing.
Do you remember a moment when you thought,
yes, when I was driving into work, and my show started 15 minutes before I'd got there. And I thought, I'm lazy.
This is not good.
And I don't care. I don't care about this. I'm not working hard anymore. This is too easy for me, and I don't care about what management say to me. And the audience will forgive me. And it was this arrogance. It was very, very bad. And I suddenly realized this is not good enough.
So what did you do?
Well, you have two options. You either carry on trying to improve the product you're already engaged in, or you force yourself to go up a level and do something a lot harder, which is going to give you no option, because I don't have the option for failure here. If I'd failed at the SABC, they would have moved me to afternoons or evenings. Then they would have put me on weekends. Then I would have been picked up by some horrible adult contemporary station. I would have been one of those DJs that's going, well, there's the Doobie Brothers with Michael McDonald. My name's Gareth Cliff. What song would you like to hear? Email me on Gareth at whatever the station's name is.
And you would still get the salary.
I would have got paid.
Yeah.
So if I were just after the money and security, perhaps that would have been a better option. But also, you have to, I think there's a point in everybody's life where you decide to take control of your own destiny. And in most respects, my life was my own design anyway. I live the way I want to live. I'm with the people I want to be with. I enjoy reading. I enjoy drawing floor plans of buildings. I enjoy doing chemical experiments.
But you're
it's a mess.
in the middle of your career.
This was the thing that was missing.
And you do have responsibilities like any grown-up person. And here you were letting go of all of that, of that whole safety net.
But you said it.
Didn't that make you, how did you, I mean, it must have made you nervous.
You said it earlier. You said you didn't have any regrets afterwards. Before the decision, you're racked with all the, you look at it from 360 degrees. You walk right around the problem and you check it out from every angle and you say, okay, if this happens, what will happen there? If that happens, what will happen there? Then you start figuring in, okay, I've got this bond to pay. I've got these bills at the end of every month. You really analyze your life. You get down to the bare bones of it and you go, is that what I want? And can I carry on doing what I'm doing and sustain this current lifestyle? Is that all I need to do, or do I need to do more?
So it isn't an irresponsible, you don't just jump.
Oh, no.
You do it very
like
carefully.
I may give the impression that I'm a loose cannon and that I do ridiculous, stupid things, but a lot of the time
you try hard to give that impression. You don't really.
Do you think I try hard? Do you? That's interesting.
Are you not trying hard? It just happens.
No, I give the impression that I'm careless because a lot of the time I am careless. But when it comes to things like my career, like radio, like my audience, I'm not careless. I'm very careful about that. Those are not things you take for granted. People will, just as quickly as they listen and they enjoy it, tomorrow they'll forget about me.
Gareth, but in this case, you stepped out into completely uncharted territory. What's that like?
Well, there were a lot of things around it that had convinced me it was an interesting thing to do and it would be worth trying. The current climate, the economy at the moment, the fact that the media business is changing as it is, these all gave me reason to be positive. And the fact that I've got this creative bugbear that I need to be able to do my thing. It's almost childish and a little bit of a brat attitude. But I need to do it my way. And I couldn't do that working for any other radio station or being on television. And you know how hard that work is. It's lighting and cameras and rehearsals and scripts. And I don't want to do that. I want to do everything live, like we're doing this interview live now, because it's real. South African audiences deserved something new. Radio's become very stale. It's become over-commercialized. I got bored as a listener. And I thought, if I'm a listener and I'm bored, I can only imagine how people who sit in traffic for 2-3 hours a day have to put up with so much more boredom. Let me fix that for them.
But
there's a product. There's a value in that.
How could you be sure that you could actually pay your bond?
I can't. I can't tell you. I mean, like maybe a month from now they kick me out of my house. Who knows? I mean, I'm not earning anything here now. We're hopefully going to be in a short while, but you don't know.
How does one live with that? How do you live with that insecurity?
It's funny, I thought about it this morning. I walked into the kitchen and I thought, what do I grab out of this fridge for breakfast? I got a little cooler box there with some yogurt and some muesli or something horrible in it. And I thought, what do I do when the yogurt and muesli runs out and when I don't have money in the wallet to buy more? And you carry on putting your energy into what you're building rather than worrying about what you already have. You have to do that.
And planning for
that's what you did. You left a job. You didn't know what you could have done 1,000 different things, but you don't know for sure because you haven't already lined up the next job. And when you create your next job, which is what both of us have done, it's even more difficult because there's no guarantee anywhere.
There's no guarantee anywhere. And I went into a completely freelance environment. And for the next 2-3 years, every January, I had a week-long panic attack about where's the money going to come from. Because, you see, I'm in a different situation because I am married to someone who earns well. Mm-hmm. So I do have a safety net.
Yeah.
I do have a safety net.
But you weren't dependent on your money.
Yeah.
Right.
But I am a partner in the partnership. So I can't just say, oh, darling, you will look after me. And can I have another diamond ring, please?
You have to bring your value.
So, there were moments, I remember them, when it was really, what did I do? And was I out of my cotton-picking little mind?
Right.
But
then, I
then,
thought that, not after, funnily enough. I haven't got any regret about not hanging on to that job.
no, neither have I. And
That's never, I
there's
don't
always
think,
something that you can do. But we talked about it earlier as well.
You know what I really
can't
wanted
be
to do?
Too precious.
Here's what I thought. I thought either I'll make a huge success of this, which I'm still hoping we'll get right, or I'll go and lecture history. That's what I'll do. That's my backup plan, is I'll go and lecture in history, bore some students to death. But that wouldn't be so bad. And I thought if that's the worst that could happen, then that's not a bad outcome. That would be cool. I could fulfill two things. I could try my hand at this own business, new broadcast medium type environment, which really is the most exciting thing I've ever done. Or I could go into teaching something I love and filling other people's minds with the love I have for history.
But I think a part of a decision like that is to say, okay, what is the worst that can happen? And face that fear. Say, okay, right? So
be
that has
homeless,
gone wrong, that has
selling
gone wrong,
myself
and
for
now.
sex. And no one would buy. That's the most scary part.
Yeah, the problem is always, is there a market?
There's no market for me. Tell you what.
Well, I can only say good luck.
Thank you.
And may it go better and better.
Thank you so much. And I think that everybody who's wondering, if there's anyone who's listening to us now thinking, I deserve better than this, and you have a plan, and you have some, and you take a long time to think it through, because these are not the kind of decisions that you make on the flip of a coin. If you've thought it through and you want to do something really badly, and you believe it can have, and most importantly, that it can have value for other people. Mm-hmm. Because if you're doing something for you all the time, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make a cent. You only make money if people are prepared to exchange that money for some value they're getting out of you. And if it's people who are going to advertise here because we've got listeners who like what we're doing, that's fantastic. Then I don't even mind if it's a small amount of money, but it'll all be mine and I'll have earned it. And that's better than taking it from a parastatal.
Good for you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Ruda Landman. Coming up in a moment or two, John T. Searle and the Black Spider, who I haven't met yet, they're going to be doing a sex advice show. So, anything that you want to ask, you don't have to feel insecure about asking it, because you can remain anonymous and no one will be embarrassed, I promise. These two, you can't frighten these two. Trust me.